I didn't expect myself to watch an Ant-Man movie in the theater, but here I am to talk about it, so let's talk about it. Now, honestly speaking, this movie was an alright movie in terms of its plot, but its visual effects were on another level compared to the previous Ant-Man movies. And for that reason, I think it was worth watching it in the theater, particularly this Ant-Man movie, simply because of its visual effects. Now, I will say that, some of the characters were all right. Like some of the characters were actually pretty good, and some of them were just really cast aside for this movie for some reason. Because in the previous movies they were really good. And speaking of the previous movies, I do have to say I only watched the first Ant-Man movie. I didn't actually watch the second one, so technically I skipped one part before watching this movie. And I will say when I watched the first part was a really fun and funny movie to watch. I remember having a good time. But then I will say that when it comes to visual effects, this movie might have been better. But when it comes to the plot, I think the first one was definitely better. So you know what I'm trying to get to. I still like the first part better than this part, even though I might have had a different experience watching this movie. So there's that. Now let's start talking about this movie. Start with Scott Lang himself. I think it was good to see him get a bit more recognition than he used to, especially after helping to save the universe in back in Avengers Endgame. I think he was certainly a bit more recognized than he used to be, which was good to see. On top of that, it seemed like everything was going quite smoothly for him in his life. I think he was living quite the happy life, so that was good to see. And on top of that also we get to see how his daughter as well, Cassie Lang, and it was very interesting to just see how she was heading towards a similar direction as her father, given that she was getting arrested, albeit for different reasons. On top of that she was interested in technology similar to the one Scott Lang was using, given that she did also help build that machine that helped them travel to the quantum zone, which brings me to my next point, which was the setup of this movie. The setup of this movie was pretty decent. So this is how it starts. So Cassie tries to show Scott, what she had been working on, and then Janet tells them to shut it down because she knows what the quantum realm is like, given that she was trapped there for a long time, and for that reason she doesn't want to go back because she knows what's in there. But then they all get pulled in instead, and that's where the real storyline begins, I believe, which was in the quantum realm, which brings me to my next point, which is the quantum realm. So let's talk about it. Looking at the quantum realm, it seemed as if a lot of time and effort was put to it in terms of designing it, given that it seems something different from what they showed in a typical MCU movies. In my opinion, one particular example, I don't know why it's mainly that character that's coming on top of my head as of now, but I just have to bring it up because that's what I can only think of as of now. Is that creator with a lamp for his head? It seems something very different from what they would show in the typical MCU movies. Now, I do have a comment that as unique it seemed from whatever they showed in the previous MCU movies, for better or worse, I was getting a lot of Star Wars vibes from that particular world. Not just because of the CGI characters, but also some scenes also felt a lot like it would have taken place in a Star Wars movies. One particular scene was that scene where Hope, Janet, and Hank try to escape from Kryler. I think that was Bill Murray's character, and they start using guns to escape from there, and the guns they were using felt a lot similar to the ones Han Solo would be using. I don't know if it was just me, but I particularly felt like that. And even the ship they used to escape from that place also seemed something similar to the ships they would use in the Star Wars movies. So that way I was getting a lot of Star Wars vibe from it, even though it was an Ant-Man movie. So didn't expect an Ant-Man movie to look turn out like a Star Wars movie. So I did have to bring that up. To talk about the villain of this movie, that was Kang the Conqueror. Obviously I had to talk about him sometime sooner or later, given that not only was he the villain of this movie, but he is supposed to be the next biggest villain of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Basically he's supposed to be the next Thanos. Now let's first get started with him. Honestly, I have to say that I was honestly looking forward to see him, or I was getting excited every time they mentioned his name. I just wanted to know like who he really was and what his capabilities were. And honestly speaking, I have to say that he did not disappoint. I think the actor Jonathan Majors, I think he is the one who performed him very well, and that way he was very interesting to watch. And I do have to say that he certainly was one of the strongest aspects of this movie. At least he was the one who tried to help keep this movie going in a way. So that was very interesting. Now I do have to also now say that if he is actually going to be as powerful as Thanos or not, because he is certainly very powerful, given that he is able to manipulate time, and he has the capability to, to control, take over the world, given his, his powers. But then, is he going to be as powerful as Thanos? Well, we have to see about that. That depends on, what he manages to accomplish that makes him seem more powerful than Thanos in the future movies. Now, am I really excited for him? I think I am, because I think I should be in some ways. Now, is he going to be as impressive as Thanos? It's hard to say as of now. You cannot say anything for sure if he's going to be, even though he might be more powerful, is he going to be as, his character are going to be as interesting as Thanos? Well, we really have to find that out. We cannot say anything for sure as of now. At least what matters is he is unique from Thanos. His goals are unique from Thanos, so that's what matters, rather than, being a complete copy of Thanos. So that's at least not the case. It's just a matter of time. We got to find out, what he turns out to be like, and is he actually, going to be a bigger and, more interesting of a villain than Thanos was. So we're gonna have to find that out. Now, I do have to say that it was quite interesting to, see him be introduced in an Ant-Man movie instead of a bigger superhero movie, given how, big of a villain he is. But then, given that he was introduced in this movie, I do have to say that even Ant-Man deserves more recognition for, introducing such a big villain, and even, going up against him towards the, third act of the movie. So I guess he also deserves a little bit more recognition, I guess. So I just had to also bring that up as well. The mid-credit scene also made me look forward to the future of the MCU. It made me realize how complex of a villain Kang is going to be, and even powerful of a villain Kang is going to be for the Avengers to deal with. So there's that. But speaking of the future of the MCU, I think it's important to, discuss the current situation of the MCU. I think it needs to be addressed whether, Marvel is the same as it used to be. And the short answer is no. I mean, honestly speaking, like, Marvel isn't the same as pre-Endgame, nor can it be. I think back then it was really different. I think there was a different type of hype. Now that, the movies have gotten bigger, they don't hit the same as they used to. I think it's just important to just realize that, or it's a matter of realizing that, it's sorry, Marvel might have already, peaked after Endgame, and it's really, just time to just move on by not setting expectations very high. That doesn't mean that there is no hope for Marvel. I think Marvel can still make decent movies. It's just that, it might take Marvel a while to, blow our minds away with, another big blockbuster movie. That is when slash if it does. Otherwise, it's just important to realize that, Marvel isn't going to be the same as it used to be during the Infinity War saga, mainly because that was the time, Marvel was peaking, and Marvel might have already peaked, after the Endgame movie came out, or more precisely, the Avengers Endgame movie came out. And we still, like, got some, good movies, even after Avengers Endgame. Not to, like, forget to mention that, but it's just important to realize that Marvel might have already just peaked, and it's time to just admit it and move on.